A central plank of Ed Miliband's economic attack on the coalition has been his contention that the economic growth figures might be better than predicted a year ago, but for the ordinary worker, the cost of living obliterates the good news. However, a new report by the Institute of Fiscal Studies, released just a few moments ago, says the latest analysis shows that while living standards are still dramatically down on what they were before the global financial crisis hit in 2008, the fall in household incomes has now come to a halt. Here's Andrew Verity.
Ealing Green in West London isn't exactly down at heel. A 4-bed house costs £1 million here. But during the crisis, the boutiques and posh restaurants gave way to posh charity shops. Surely it wasn't here that the crisis hit hardest. Remember how those with the biggest shoulders were supposed to bear the biggest burden? Well, if you take into account everything that's happened to income and tax and benefits, and if you assume that everyone's faced the same rise in the cost of living, everything they pay for, then that turns out to be true. The people who've been squeezed hardest are the richest. Here's what happened to real incomes after tax and benefit changes, assuming price rises were the same for everyone. The richest tenth saw their incomes shrink by 9% since the financial crisis began because of higher taxes. Those in the middle were squeezed by 6%, and because benefits went up with inflation, the poorest tenth were only squeezed by 2.4%.
If you look straightforwardly at what's happened to people's incomes, compare that with the average rate of inflation, it looks like people towards the top of the income distribution have actually done quite a lot worse than people towards the bottom of the distribution. Now, that reflects the fact that wages have been going down relative to prices, and at least until this year, most benefits have been going up in line with prices.
Are you feeling squeezed income-wise?
Not particularly, no, but I have to tighten my belt.
No, I'm not better off, but I'm not really squeezed.
Are you feeling squeezed, Bella?
Completely.
How?
Wages hasn't gone up for the past 5 years.
Wage freeze, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Right. At least 5 years.
I don't feel things have got better, let's put it that way.
But you only find the richest have been squeezed hardest if you assume price rises are the same for everyone. The crucial fact is that the rise in the cost of living hasn't been the same for rich and poor. The poorer you are, the more of your income you're likely to spend on food and fuel, which have gone up a lot. So the inflation rate for the poor has been higher than for the rich. When you take that into account, the picture of who's been squeezed hardest looks very different. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says if you count in those different rates of inflation, the real squeeze on living standards was looser for the richest and tighter for the poorest. So we were all squeezed as hard as each other.
If you then look at people's differing living costs, you get a bit of a different pattern because people on high levels of income have seen very often their mortgage rates go down if they have a mortgage, and because food prices and energy prices have gone up very fast, and that's a big part of the budget of poorer households, you see that inflation has hit the poorer groups much harder than it's hit the richer groups. And if you take account of that, it looks much more like the reduction in real incomes or living standards has been flat across the distribution.
So if wages have already stopped falling in real terms, can we expect them to rise anytime soon?
Wages this year are going to go up by a bit, but not by very much. And the price of things that people mainly notice, energy, transport, food, rent, they're going to go up by more than the average. So yes, the worst is over, yes, things are recovering, but I think most people won't really notice it very much.
The squeeze isn't over for everyone. Average numbers mask great differences between private and public, between young and old. Those on the bottom will now see incomes rise by just 1%. And the smaller your income, the more it hurts when it shrinks.